Su here, and today I'll be teaching you how to properly play the violin with positions. This may help you if you're like the other instruments, viola, cello, or bass. This may help you because it might. So to start off with, we have the tuning and cleaning. When you're tuning, you have 4 screws, 4 pegs. If you're tuning small pitches, you're just going to use the screws. If you're tuning like very big pitches, like you're going to use the pegs, because when you're way off note, like all the way from G all the way to like a C, that's not good, and you want to use the peg to change it so that it goes back to its original sound. When you're using the pegs, you use them to tune your strings small pitches, like it kind of sounds like E on D, and then you use the pegs to tune it back to originally D. So to tune with the screws, to make the pitches higher, you're going to screw them clockwise. So you're going to turn them this way, and the pitches go higher. If you turn them counterclockwise, the pitch goes down. When you're tuning with the pegs, unless the string is loose, don't tune it with the pegs before loosening the string, because the strings may snap, and that's not a good thing because you're gonna have to buy a new string. So loosen them by turning this counterclockwise first, and then turn the pegs, because strings are very kind of like fragile objects, and you don't want them to break, and because you have to get a new string, and once a string breaks, your other strings also go out of tune because of that. To tune with your pegs, turn them away from you to make the pitch go higher, and then to make the pitch go down, you turn them the other way, so towards yourself. Same thing here, pitch goes higher, turn it away, pitch goes lower, turn them towards you. If the pegs don't stay in place after you try and tune them, make it like a screw. While you're turning them, you're also pushing in at the same time. So turn while pushing in, so that the peg will stay in place. Usually I do is just like keep on moving back and forth towards into the scroll, and then start tuning. That way it's easier. So for the cleaning, you should clean your violin every single time you play. Not every single day, because you might not play every single day. So every time you finish playing, clean this area, your strings, fingerboard here. You should probably clean here as well, because your hands might be oily and gets all like the bad stuff onto it, so you probably want to clean here as well. You should probably clean here as well. Your chin may lose some skin here, or might get oily, so you want to clean that part as well. Another place you want to clean is your bow. You should clean the stick here, right here between the horsehair and the stick, because there's like a lot of, there might be some bad stuff on it. You never know. See that part? That's bad stuff right there. and you should clean that part as well. So there are other things you have to know about your violin before we get into positions, is that your strings, not about the tune or the pitch of the strings, but when to switch the strings. You have to know when to switch your strings because you don't want it snapping your face, or like you don't want it to sound bad when you're like performing a solo, or like during a concert. So how to tell when your string is unraveling. On G, D, and A, they have like you look closely, or you could do that, and then you're basically like scratching it down. You can feel like small lines, and it's making that sound, but not E. It's completely E is completely just a string, but for G, D, and A, they wrap some like small coils, thin coils around it, so that it produces that sound. And then you can tell when it's unraveling, but like you can see not like the inside of the coils, and that's when you know when to switch your strings. Because from that point on, it would just basically sound deeper, kinda. Another thing is when to switch your strings is when it keeps on getting out of tune easily. That means you have to switch your strings, because you can tell when like one day you just tune your G string, and then the next day your G string's out of tune again and again and again, even though you didn't practice, or like nothing happened to it really. That's part of when you have to change your strings. So you should basically change your strings 9 to 12 months, about like usually you should do it for every year, but I haven't changed it for a few years, so strings are pretty good, depends. But if you practice too much, you're basically you're gonna have to change your strings more often than others, because if people don't really practice that much, they still should probably change it like one every like 1 or a few years maybe, because it's gonna get, the strings are gonna get worse condition. The strings are gonna be in worse condition. The strings are gonna be worse condition if you just not change the strings. And when you play again, like after a few years, it's gonna sound bad. So if you keep on playing, you're basically gonna change it like every few months. So you have to remember when to change your strings. Otherwise, it might snap one day. You will never know, because it can like suddenly snap, and then while you're practicing or you're playing, that's not a good thing to happen. So on the violin, there's a thing called a shoulder rest. You might know of it already, and that's the shoulder rest protects your shoulder from your shoulder nerves getting damaged. If you don't have shoulder rest, either get one or get a like piece of like towel or cloth, so that you don't injure your shoulder nerves. Professional players who didn't use shoulder rest, their shoulder nerves were damaged, and that's pretty much a bad thing to happen to you. So get a shoulder rest or get a piece of cloth, just as long as your shoulder nerves don't get damaged. Next part is your positioning. So when you play on your violin or the viola, you want to put it pretty much almost parallel to your shoulder. So you don't want to put your violin or viola this way, because that just does not look nice. When the audience sees you, you want your position to look nice, so you want to do this. Otherwise, your position might look bad. And when you're playing, never put your scroll downwards or upwards. Make it so that it stays up pretty much horizontally. When you also play it horizontally, your stand should also be where you can see it, not like below your scroll. You should make it so that like it's about the level of the scroll, but you can also see the music at the same time. Unless someone beside you part shorter or taller than you. So left hand positioning here. So you don't want your left hand to be touching your left palm, your palm, or any of your like fingers, like here, the lower part of your fingers, be touching the neck of your violin, because sooner on you'll be learning to how to vibrato, and to learn to vibrato, you can't touch the neck other than your thumb and your fingers, the tip of all of them. So so our teacher teaches us to play like, put your thumb out like this. I put them right underneath the neck because that just makes it more comfortable for me to play it. So also try and straighten out your left hand. Don't make it so that's like, try to make it part almost parallel to your the neck of your violin, and not like this, because you might be like at one point you might be touching the neck, you might not notice, but you might touch the neck. Also, when you're playing, your left hand, your left arm should not be touching your body. It should be away from your body, making kind of like a triangle. So shifting is not an easy thing to do when you're beginning to shift. When you're shifting, you have to remember where you place all your fingers. When you're shifting, this is very important. You have to remember where your fingers are, and then because you're moving your first finger to the places where your other fingers were. So there's second positioning, third positioning, fifth positioning, and so on. And the position you normally play is your first position, right here. And then your second position will be where your second finger is. And second position can be anywhere. And pretty much all the positions can be anywhere because of the key signatures. So let's make it sharp for now. And then you slide your finger, first finger, all the way to where your second finger was and replace it. And then your other fingers, if you're playing higher notes, your fingers are going to be replacing the other fingers that you just from shifting. So basically 1, 2, and 3. So first, second, third. Move to second position. Your second finger will be where your third finger will normally be. Third finger will be normally where your fourth finger was, and fourth finger will be normally where your fifth finger is going to be, like B, because if we're shifting, this is F, G, A, and then this is B. So basically when you're shifting, you always start to reach your next string. It's not reaching your next string, but your next string notes. So if you're playing some music and like you have to go fast, you don't have enough time to shift from where you just shifted from. Just play the notes onto another string. So, for example, you're playing some shifting notes on E string. You don't have enough time to go back to the first position. So all you do is just go to A string and keep on playing from there. And this is not as easy as you think, because you have to know where your fingers are going to be, because you're basically going down one string technically, and that you have to remember where the fingers would normally be. And because depending on which position you're shifting, your fingerings might all be different, so you have to memorize the fingerings and then go back down, and you have to memorize which notes you're playing with the fingers, your shifting fingers. So it would be possibly a good idea to practice when you can, because shifting is not an easy thing to do, and once you get used to it, you can easily shift. Some music they have some shifting, and usually it happens on the E string. And some other music, for example, Swan Lake, you're not shifting if you're like playing it normally, but like if you want to play it nicer, you're basically going from D string and shifting all the way to third position on D string. So first position to third position, and then you just keep on playing from there, because it just basically sounds nicer like that. Some music sound nicer when you're shifting from G, D, or A, or E, but those parts that I like when you're shifting is the D and A string. So next we'll be talking about your bow, the positioning of your bow, like how you put it on the violin. So when you play on the violin, I've seen people just play like this, just like waving their bow around while they're playing. One, they're just basically gonna hit the other strings. Two, it doesn't look nice at all if you're looking from the audience. So pretend this is you and you're holding the bow, and you're basically gonna be playing, and then you're basically playing the bow like this. So let's get this angle so that you understand. So you just basically play like this. So although I'm not really playing, this is how some people will start playing. So they just put their bow like this, pretend it's the other way because I don't want to make any sound. So basically they're just doing this. So the proper way to play the bow, so the proper way to use the bow is you're doing this. You're not only are you bending your wrist, you also have to be twisting your bow at the same time. Once you're play at the frog, and then you're basically bending your wrist like this, and your bow is tilted, not this way, not this, not straight, but this way. And then once you start playing down, you start moving your wrist, bending your wrist the other way so that it goes here. And then once you reach the top of the string, once you reach the tip of your string, your bow will be curving the other way, and then your hand will be like that. So basically your movement is basically like this. So that's how your wrist should move. And then with the bow, because when you I've seen people just twist their wrist but not their bow, and it's still just basically just waving around. And then if you twist your bow and your wrist, it basically stays straight pretty much all the time, unless you get better at it and it just stays straight. Because when you're playing on the violin with the bow, once you reach here, the sound gets softer, the distance between the strings are shorter, but towards the bridge, your distance between the strings are bigger. But the closer you get to the bridge, the louder it gets. Closer to the fingerboard, the softer it gets. So now we'll be talking about the dynamics of the violin, because it's not only on music, but it's also on your violin as well. So when you're playing with your bow, and you want to play soft music, play towards the fingerboard, but not all the way to here, but just play probably from this area, pretty much. You don't want it too big, otherwise you'll be hitting the violin. And then if you're trying to play it like normally, play it here, louder, you play this area. The reason why you want to play like this, because when you're playing like with articulations, for example marcatos or accents, you're just basically putting weight on the bow. And if you don't do like towards this way or this way, towards fingerboard or bridge, you're putting the weight here, although you're already like at fortissimo, and then you're putting more weight onto the bow. You're just making scratchy noises, and that doesn't sound really well if the audience hears that. So you want to try not to put as much weight on the bow, and trying to move your bow towards the fingerboard or the bridge, so that you can use the weight that you're not using that much to play the articulations. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. So that's the second part of the video. Next part will be the video for intermediates, on how to play for intermediates, because it's gonna be harder. It's gonna be mostly probably just be for not sheet music, but like the violin instead, because that's what I'm basically gonna be teaching for intermediates. So hope you guys enjoy the video, and like and subscribe. Bye.